Riley Greene saves the day. How about a 4 RBI night from Riley Greene? Tarik Skubal was on the bump. The outing didn't go the way you'd expect. But hey, we're going to discuss it all next on Locked on Tigers. Welcome in.
You are Locked on Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
And here we go. It's Locked on Tigers. Once again, Jake Rietma filling in for Scott Bentley. And the Tigers get a victory at Busch Stadium, taking down the St. Louis Cardinals 5-4 to even the series. And what a game it was. Great show on tap for you. We'll go over Riley Greene's big night, Tarik Skubal's outing, and what to make of that. Maybe there are some bullpen concerns. We will discuss them and look ahead to the rubber match as well, coming up later today. Not too much later, though, because it is a day game. And how about some of the reinforcements that are coming to the big league squad sooner rather than later? So buckle up, dial it in, and let's get it going. But first, I would be remiss if you didn't catch yesterday's episode, worth reiterating it, that the ordeal going on right now with Scott Bentley. I talked with him yesterday, sent him my best. He'll be back before you know it. And just working through a difficult situation that he'll tell you all about, I'm sure, but absolutely sending our best to our guy, Scott Bentley, who does such a tremendous job. And I am grateful to fill in and just keep the chair warm in a pinch hitting role until Scott Bentley gets back. But it's Locked on Tigers. We've got the Locked on Tigers postcast. That's what I host, Jake Rietma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. That's the instant reaction show after every game. And this is the deep dive of Locked on Tigers. So that being said, I want to begin with Riley Greene's big night. I mean, that's the story in this game because the Detroit Tigers built a 4-0 lead yesterday, and thanks largely to the offense jumping on the opposition early and often, and no better way to do that than a Kerry Carpenter leadoff homer right away. And when you give up the leadoff homer for Fetty, that puts him in a little bit of a retreat mode. You're wheeling a little bit, and then the Tigers come back with two more in the third. And I should add, in the first inning, they added an RBI single off the bat of guess who? Riley Greene. That scored Zach McKinstry, and a big night for him as well, albeit kind of playing Robin to Riley Greene's Batman as far as production. But Kerry Carpenter with the leadoff homer, Riley Greene with an RBI single in the first, and then in the third, Riley Greene off the foul pole and right. There's something about the poetry of seeing poetry in motion, seeing a baseball hit from one of your favorite Tigers clank off the foul pole in the outfield, and it's just something aesthetically pleasing about it. But a 2-run bomb from Riley Greene, his 12th of the year. He continues to be on a tear even after the slow start, or after the slow start, I should say, because that's a huge part of this. I mean, make no mistake about it. I said this on the postcast, and I'll reiterate it. I'm guilty. Hand up. I was a little bit concerned with Riley's slow start, and it did not take long for him to be performing at an all-star level. And I see him getting back to the all-star game just as he did last year. But a 4 RBI night for Riley Greene. And let's be honest, you go up 4-0 with Tarik Skubal on the mound. That could be against an all-star team, and you're still feeling good about your chances for a smooth sailing victory. I mean, I thought it was a kick the feet up on the lazy boy, relax kind of night with the Tigers having a 4-0 lead and Tarik Skubal cruising. But as the great Lee Corso might say, not so fast, my friends, because bottom of the fifth, it started to not unravel. That's way too strong of a term. I don't even want to use that. But you give up the 2-run homer, Skubal does, to Nolan Arenado, and that was I had the opportunity to watch the FanDuel postgame show, albeit FanDuel St. Louis just having the postgame show on for the Tigers. And I know Todd Jones was on the set, but they did flash into some postgame sound with Tarik Skubal and AJ Hinch. But just I don't know, maybe somebody way smarter than me can explain why you have a FanDuel St. Louis postgame show airing after the Tigers game. Again, call me crazy, but I'd like to hear from the Tigers after the Tigers win. That's why you'd have the FanDuel Detroit broadcast and the FanDuel St. Louis broadcast. But the cross reference there, if you missed it, it is what it is. But anyways, back to the Tarik Skubal sound after the game. He said that pitch that Arenado hit out of here, he missed by 18 inches, and you just can't do that. And Arenado, a good enough player that is going to take complete advantage of a mistake like that. And I said this a while ago that he was a guy, when it became clear the Tigers were not going to be able to acquire Alex Bregman, I kind of thought Nolan Arenado was a great alternative. And he's proven it with the numbers that he's put up this year, that he still has plenty of pop left in that bat. And the 2-run homer tonight, more proof of that. But he continues to rake at a 247 batting average, 320 OBP, and slugging nearly 400 at 391. And a guy that would certainly add some pop to this Tigers lineup. But with the Cardinals playing as well as they are, I don't see them being sellers at the deadline or moving any major pieces like Nolan Arenado. So that becomes a pipe dream at this point. But back to the game. So Arenado hits the 2-run homer off Tarik Skubal, and you're thinking, all right, now that, as they say in Milwaukee, the cheese gets a little bit more binding. It's a little more interesting in a 2-run game. And sure enough, Skubal just unable to get that last out that he needed in the home half of the 6th inning. And Hanafy comes on and just doesn't do him any favors. And there wasn't any hard hit balls per se where you're scratching your head, and it wasn't the catastrophic blow to the bullpen with any kind of towering home run or anything like that. It was just kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts, as they say, with just infield singles, soft ground balls, that sort of thing. And the luck wasn't, the baseball gods weren't necessarily on the Tigers' side in that 6th and 7th inning for the home team. But tied up, and with the Cardinals having all the momentum to get to the 9th inning after the Tigers offense had just been completely silent from the 4th inning to the 9th inning, this was really a surprise. I'll admit, when you got Zach McKinstry leading off to get on base in that 9th inning, and then Riley Greene coming around with the big hit to add to an already incredibly productive night with the RBI double to put the Tigers ahead 5-4 in the 9th. And then how about Tommy Kahnle? I mean, you talk about a smooth sailing 9th inning, 12 pitches. He mowed down 3 consecutive hitters, getting the strikeout, and then Nootbaar flying out to left, and then the very, very soft fly ball to left from Wynn to close it out. And just like that, you put the finishing touches on it for Kahnle. That's going to be his 6th save of the season. Will Vest pitched a scoreless 8th inning and did a tremendous job, as he always does. We talked about how good he's been on yesterday's episode. If you missed that, he's been one of the absolute best. And you know what? We got time, so I might as well pull that back up from the Tigers PR about how good Will Vest has been. And reiterate, he's only getting better, but he's the only pitcher in the American League to have 3+ wins, 5+ saves, and now it's 4+ wins with the win today, and a sub 2.00 ERA. And dating back to the start of 2024, Vest is 2.54 ERA, ranks 8th among AL relievers. Also worth noting, even though Skubal's final line was 5 2/3 with 3 earned runs, and you ask any Tarik Skubal guy, if you ask Tarik Skubal or any Tarik Skubal fan, they're obviously surprised by that. But that being said, he still now leads all of the American League in strikeouts after his 8 strikeouts this evening, which was really good to see, even though, again, you'd like to see him go a little bit further into the game than what he did. We're just used to see him go further into the game. But now with the 8 strikeouts, Tarik Skubal leads the American League with 79 punchies on the season. That's the Andy Dirks terminology for punchies, or strikeouts, Ks, whatever you want to call it. But great stuff there from Tarik Skubal. Also worth noting, at least was on my list, great to see Jake Rogers back behind the dish. Didn't have a great night at the plate, 0 for 3, but Tarik Skubal talked about just the chemistry, the continuity, being back with his battery mate, back with his guy, and we know about the success that they've had. And I think it really is a prime opportunity to acknowledge how good Dylan Dingler was in Jake Rogers' absence and how Dylan Dingler evolved into that role to be the everyday catcher. And I think Jake Rogers certainly has to be aware of how good Dylan Dingler was in his absence, and perhaps being I would say just aware of the potential that maybe Dylan Dingler is the future everyday catcher for this team, and seeing how that all plays out. But I'm not trying to, believe me, I'm not trying to stir up anything. It's just point, food for thought, conversation's sake, of who that number one catcher should be. Would love your opinion on that as well. Enjoy reading the comments as well, even though some pointed out in the comments yesterday that I am not Scott Bentley, and that is correct. I am happy to be pinch hitting for him, and looking forward to when he's going to be back. So I think the absolute world of Scott and his work, and I know that he's done such a tremendous job in building up Locked On Tigers. All right, and making it what it is today, that's for sure. Now, Tigers win 5-4, and we got more to discuss. I mean, it wasn't just Riley Greene, although he was a big part of it. I've got some bullpen concerns to discuss, and we will go over that next on Locked On Tigers. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Tigers postcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. That's right, Monarch Money. Have you ever gone to your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? Where's the funds? Where's the cashola? I swear I had more in my account than this. Well, sometimes, you know what? You need to take control of your finances, because between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track of where that cash could be allocated. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, and you can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and all your spending. And get this, it's all in one place. So you stop just managing your money, but you start building wealth, taking control. I know that's what Monarch Money is all about. I also love the easy collaboration tools, so you can manage your money with your partner, and it's smoother than ever. You can track your shared and your personal accounts with your significant other. You can set goals together, and most importantly, you can just stay on the same page, alleviating all of the stress. Because let's be honest, finances can be stress more when you're managing it versus building it. Build that wealth with Monarch Money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com. That's LOCKEDONMLB as your promo code at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's right. That's half off, folks. monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. All right, we went over the good in the Tigers' 5-4 victory. Great to even up the series. Now you have an opportunity to win a fifth series in their last 6 series and win a series against a really good St. Louis Cardinals team, against a really good National League contender that I think we'll be talking about as we proceed down the stretch of the regular season. I mean, this Cardinals team had a little bit of a rocky start. Not like a Colorado rocky start. I mean, that's obviously historically bad. But the Redbirds are in the point where they're hitting their stride, and they've got a solid lineup from top to bottom. They've got a good rotation. The bullpen was really good tonight for the St. Louis Cardinals. And so to grind out a win like that, and a one run win, say that 5 times fast, a 1-run win on top of that is really impressive. And just another feather in the cap of this Detroit Tigers team. And Riley Greene, Tarik Skubal, the list goes on of impactful contributors to tonight's win. Now, the bullpen, we got to talk about it. It wasn't egregious. It wasn't sharp, though. It wasn't lights out. It wasn't what we know this bullpen can be. And there's a couple of guys that you're just waiting for them to turn it on, and they just haven't. And Tyler Holton's numbers, I had somebody reach out to me earlier. It might have even been on the postcast now that I say this out loud on the postgame show, that Holton's numbers maybe last year was an outlier, because, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a better season from start to finish for a relief pitcher than what Holton turned in last year. But tonight he gives up another earned run in an inning, and he's not fooling hitters. He's just not the dominant lights out relief pitcher that we saw last year. And same with Hanafy. I mean, it would have been huge if the Tigers could have gotten out of that sixth inning. Would have been huge for Tarik Skubal. But unfortunately, to no avail, as Hanafy gives up a couple of infield singles. Now, Will Vest back into the bullpen with Will Vest in the 8th and Tommy Kahnle in the 9th. Solid, lights out. And of course, we're going to sit around and say, yeah, that's what we need every time. That's the kind of consistency. And you wouldn't be wrong to say that by any means. It's just getting to a point where you're building and continuing to progress as a bullpen, and it's not as herky-jerky, as much of a roller coaster up and down, and you never know what you're going to get. I mean, high leverage situations happen. That's the game of baseball, of course. You just want to have that peace of mind, that confidence in your bullpen. And you look at the Saturday game against the Toronto Blue Jays, where they walked it off the Tigers bullpen. You look at some other past instances in which this bullpen has been a little bit more shaky, and it's okay to be a little bit concerned, because we got spoiled, but also at the same time, it was revealed what the potential of that bullpen is, and how good this Tigers team can be with a bullpen performing at an elite level, because other components of the team are performing at that elite level. So I think when you look at what today represented, and the Cardinals bullpen showing how valuable, that strength of the back end of the bullpen can be, and how impactful it can be in a game. And so, thinking of how can this team take the next step? How can this team continue to be dominant? And as we talked about yesterday, even though the Tigers are off to the best start in baseball and have the best record over the, as we get even closer and closer to June, for goodness sakes, the AL Central, there's not a lot of distancing happening between the top portion of the division. It's not like the Tigers are building this monumental lead that will be insurmountable by another opposition. I mean, the Twins, the Royals, and then you got the Guardians, who have hung around. And baseball's a marathon. It is not a sprint. I'm not telling anyone anything they don't know. That's for sure. But, stockpiling wins and being at our absolute best as a team, it's going to take more from the bullpen, in my opinion, as they say. One other note I mentioned on the postcast that I have not got to yet on Locked On Tigers, but they flashed the graphic, and I'm sorry, I'm about to move the place, but with Riley Greene having the steepest swing in all of baseball, just getting underneath the baseball, and that was on display in that home run, his 12th of the year, off the foul pole. So I had that note, and sometimes with the old ADHD that I got working and I got going on, and sometimes something pops into your head and you're like, oh, I forgot to mention that. So there you have it. But let's look ahead at tomorrow's game, where the Tigers get set, or I'm sorry, at today's game later today. See how that works on the Locked On Tigers podcast? This is not the postcast, Rima. This is the podcast. Get your time right. So there you have it. We'll look ahead at the rubber match and the chance for the Tigers to take a series coming up next on Locked On Tigers. Tigers, Cardinals, Busch Stadium, day game, a little day baseball. Who doesn't love a little day baseball? You got a bullpen day, a scheduled bullpen day, with the Tigers moving Flaherty's start back to Thursday to take on the Guardians that Thursday, which will be a 6:40 start. But this afternoon, a 1:15 Eastern time start, and you got Brant Herter, who is going to be the opener for the Detroit Tigers in the scheduled bullpen day. And I'd love to see Herter just get out there and get this team off to a good start. Give them a lift. And the Tigers' early offense, we know how good they've been as a team in early offense situations. It would be so great to see them, again, give this team an opportunity to start feeling good about themselves early in this one and prolong it to a hopefully a victorious afternoon rubber match at Busch Stadium. Hey, I understand there are a ton of Tigers fans at Busch Stadium both last night and in the opener, which is great to see. I mean, the way this Tigers team travels when they're playing such a beautiful brand of baseball, it just speaks to the fan base that is the Detroit Tigers. I mean, that is one thing I've always cherished about Tigers fans is they travel, which is so good to see. All right. One other note on the future of the Tigers, or the current state of the Tigers, I guess it would be a better way to put it, with Jake Rogers being activated off the injured list. Tomas Nido is then designated for assignment, but I think worth pointing out how good of a job he did in a secondary catcher role, backing up Dylan Dingler. And when he was called upon to be in the lineup as an everyday catcher, I think it was really good to see the depth at that position from behind the dish, that when in a pinch, or not even in a pinch, but when called upon, Tomas Nido can be that guy to step in and be a serviceable backstop for the Detroit Tigers with Jake Rogers being injured. So good stuff there. In addition, though, being sent down, that's never what you want to hear as a big leaguer, but just part of the process. Now with Jake Rogers, listen, I think he hit a couple of hard ball. He hit a couple of balls hard last night. Some impressive exit velo, as they call it. But still looking for that first hit. He was 0 for 3 last night, and I think he'll be fine. I really do. It takes some time to get back to game speed. Nobody's panicking in that sense. Just given what we've seen him do in the past. So Tigers, Cardinals. Scheduled bullpen day, Brant Herter going for the Detroit Tigers. And after the conclusion of this game, the Tigers will go home for 4 against the Guardians. So how about that? It's been a while. The last time the Tigers played the Guardians, we all know what happened. It was in the playoffs. And I still get some nightmares about that. And I think with baseball, because you just play so many games, it's not like, we need to avenge our loss from the playoffs. I mean, there's an element of that, but you got the Guardians coming to Comerica Park for 4 games where the Tigers have just been so good this season. I mean, the home record being what it is just so incredibly impressive. I mean, 17-5. Think about that. As a big league team, 17-5 at home. So looking forward to see the Tigers and the Guardians for the first time this season at Comerica Park. The homestand continues with another really good team coming, the San Francisco Giants, who part of that loaded National League West. They'll be in town beginning Monday. That's a 3-game series before the Tigers hit the road to take on Kansas City for a 3-game series at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City before continuing in the division to the south side of Chicago to take on the White Sox. So you'd feel good about stockpiling some wins there. And then the Cubs come to Detroit after that. So that's kind of wild that the Tigers are in Chicago to take on the White Sox. And then the Cubbies, the Northsiders, will come to Comerica Park. And I'm getting ahead of myself because that's into early June. But hey, when your team's in first place and has the best record in baseball, you sometimes get ahead of yourself. That's what happens. But always a pleasure. Really enjoyed the Locked On Tigers podcast and enjoyed pinch hitting. And don't forget, thank you, I should say, first and foremost, for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. And now for your second listen, you know what you got to do. You got to check out Locked On MLB Game Night, because the Game Night show takes you around Major League Baseball with all the experts, every game, every night, all season long. You'll get local analysis on a national scale. Pretty cool. As a part of that show for a little bit before it kind of clashed with the schedule a little bit, because you guys know I got to do the radio thing as well, which I should point out, like that's what this is. I'm a sports radio host on the radio, and I love the Tigers. That's why I do Locked On Tigers postcast, and that's as simple as I can make it. So those that don't know me, that's a little pull behind the curtain. I talk about sports on the radio for a living, and I love talking about the Detroit Tigers on Locked On Tigers and the Locked On Tigers postcast. But back to the MLB Game Night from MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. That's where you can find it. My best to the everydayers. Appreciate you, whether you've listened to Locked On Tigers once, 100 times, 1,000,000 times, whatever it is, you are appreciated. You're appreciated. You're appreciated. And we'll see you next time on Locked On Tigers and on the Locked On Tigers postcast. And it's all right here on Locked On Tigers, the YouTube, the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.